This is probably about as bad as it's been in the Mike Sullivan tenure. And you know what? Upon further review, scratch that. This is definitely as bad as it's been. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. I'm in Ottawa to cover Penguins versus Senators tonight. That's a 7:08 p.m. face-off at Canadian Tire Center, which is less than a mile down the road from the hotel where I'm recording this. And anyone who's flown to Ottawa from pretty much anywhere on earth knows that you can't do it nonstop. So you have a lot of time on your hands on the flight to get here. And I'm not going to lie here. I spent some of that time doing a little bit of introspection, meaning thinking about my own coverage, thinking about my own way of describing for you, portraying for you the things that are actually happening in the organization. And then on top of that, molding them into commentary. And the one thing that really kind of hit me here, and I'm not too proud to be able to confess this to you, is that I don't think I'm, and I don't think I have been, critical enough of the head coach. Now, I know why. I know why that is. I know of the respect that I have for him. I know of the consummate professional that he is. I know how much he cares about his craft. I know how much he really cares and how committed he is to his players, how loyal he is, and how much that's valued on the inside, even now, when they're playing like a team that would normally be accused of you're trying to get the coach fired, except that everybody knows that isn't the case. And I feel like in that process that I've, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's not overlooked because I'm not a dummy. I can see some of these trends. You know, I can see the really obvious ones, the historically bad power play, all the shorthanded goals, the third period blown leads, the sluggish starts that are almost always placed on the coaching staff, fair or not. And really the whole bleeping thing. You know, if you go back to that game in Calgary, that third period, if they hold on, I'm not saying they would have, risen up into champions or something, but if they hold on to that lead, they got 4 points out of the 8 out west. And they come back feeling at least decent about themselves. It doesn't matter. It didn't happen. And that's because it hasn't happened. The stuff that you can look at in little slices, and that's the way in which I have criticized Sullivan. I'll point out a single thing that I don't like. I'll point out, benching a young player. I'll point out throwing Jeff Carter out there for 15 to 18 minutes every night. I throw out stuff like that, but I won't make it cumulative. I won't make it bigger scope. And that's not okay, especially now when so much of everything that's being bandied about regarding this franchise is bigger scope. But then I thought of another thing. What I think about him doesn't matter. I mean, I'm really happy that you listen to the show. I appreciate it. But when you get right down to it, at the end of the day, what I think doesn't matter. What the people above Sullivan think is what matters. And when I say above, I mean all the way up. The sentiment about Sullivan, and I've shared this with you before, emanates not principally, but entirely from the people running Fenway Sports Group. They love him. They love him. It might be because they're Boston people and he's a Boston guy. I never underestimate that factor, especially when it comes to Boston. It might be because he's just really impressive in person. I could see where somebody, if you just met Sullivan and he came to your house to install your cable, you'd be impressed with him. Regardless, on August 30th of 2022, he signed a 3-year extension that, by the way, kicks in next season. It rolls all the way through the 2026-27 NHL season. My belief is that 3-year extension alone is worth roughly $15 million. And that's guaranteed. So that's your ownership telling you, we really think the world of you and we are 100% behind you. So Kyle Dubas comes in with allegedly the ultimate authority over all hockey things. He was the team president when he came in, and a few days later he named himself GM. He should be able to do anything. Well, he can't. He can't. I'm not telling you anything that everybody on the inside doesn't already know. He can't. I'm going to read for you 3 different remarks that Dubas has made related to Sullivan just since a little bit before Christmas. One of them was when he was asked by reporters about Sullivan's status. He said that head coaches in the NHL are, quote, always the easy, low-hanging fruit, end quote, for critics. Well, he's right. He's right about that. The average lifespan of an NHL head coach, meaning in the job, of course, is 2.4 years. It's the lowest in all of professional sports. Hockey team gets into a slump. What's the first thing everybody advocates? Yep. As it is, Sullivan, to his credit, has the second longest tenure in the league behind only John Cooper in Tampa. Another one. Quote, do I think that he's the right person for this job now and far into the future? I absolutely do. Tell me which GM says that. Tell me where the scenario exists in this league of all leagues where the GM says out loud that the coach is going to be the coach far into the future. You can look for days. You won't find anything remotely like it. Third one, this was my favorite. Dubas was admonishing reporters who asked about Sullivan and his performance. Quote, I don't think there needs to be any discussion about Mike. End quote. Really? Really, dude? I mean, I'm not even sure where to go with that. I don't know how much more obvious it can be what's happening here. But that and my respect for the guy shouldn't keep me from looking at a bigger overarching picture. And that is that Sullivan and his Penguins haven't won a playoff series since 2018, since Jake Guentzel. I'm going to just keep calling him Jake at first name because everybody is going to always know who he is. Jake scored 4 goals out in Philadelphia to beat the Flyers 4-2. And that was it. April 22 of 2018. That's not okay. This team's now been outscored 27-7 since blowing that third period lead in Calgary. 27-7. Not okay. When we come back, J1Q. Today's J1Q comes from Robert. And, I'm looking ahead at this thing. I've just read it all in my mind. And I don't know that I even want to touch this. But I'm going to read you the question anyway. DK, could Kyle Dubas have traded Jake Guentzel to tick off the core, hoping that either Evgeny Malkin or Chris Letang waives his no-trade clause in the offseason? Okay, what's the way that I can answer this without having to explain more than I'm prepared to explain at the moment? Don't misunderstand here. Reporters aren't in the business of keeping secrets. When we know something, you know it. That's kind of the way the gig is supposed to work. The catch is you pick up certain things along the way that you don't have fully, that you can't confirm fully enough that you can be responsible about sharing it. And I know some of that gets confused between print reporting and multimedia reporting, where the multimedia is seen for whatever reason as having some lesser burden on being accurate. So you can just go ahead and say whatever you want on a show, but you can't put it into print. I'm not a believer in this. I do both, and I do both hopefully with the same standards. So if it sounds like I'm stalling here, I kind of am. Let's just put it this way. Totally unconfirmed, totally anything. I've had some significant conversations over the past 3 or 4 days. And I've heard differing viewpoints. I've heard emotional versions of a lot of the events of the past, what's it been now, a week and a half. And as I continue to piece those together, I feel like I owe it to you to be careful about what it is that I actually end up concluding, assuming that I ever do. There's more conversations to be had, or else we'd be talking about it right now. But I'm not there yet. Let's just say that what you asked is a fair question. What you ask deserves a better answer than the one that I'm giving you now. And I'm just going to let it sit there. You're free to do with it whatever you want, presuming you would want to. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. Again, I'm covering the game here tonight in Ottawa. I'll have a full column about it on DK Pittsburgh Sports tomorrow morning, and we'll hook up again here as well.